So, George, we went to go and see The Monkey. Not Monkey Man, with Dev Patel.
Not Better Man, which
Not
also
Better
has
Man.
a monkey in it.
Which has a monkey in it. This is The Monkey.
I was trying to explain to someone, I was like, so you know that film Monkey Man, which doesn't have any monkeys in it, but is a man dressed up as a monkey who's haunted by violence, right? Okay, there's also Better Man, which is a man who looks like a monkey, but never talks about, but hates
actually
himself.
isn't a monkey, but hates himself.
And there is moments of violence in that. This is about a man who's haunted by a monkey with lots of violence, but is no way a monkey.
A triple bill ready to happen if you ever saw it. This is a film from Osgood Perkins.
Hello, I'm Osgood Perkins.
Hello, my name is Osgood Perkins, who last year came out with Longlegs, horror film we both really enjoyed. Dark, sinister, nasty. I thought it was scary.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Really shot really interestingly. Osgood Perkins, who in our review of Longlegs, we talked about the, sort of his story being a younger version of Norman Bates and the tragedy befell him and his parents.
His dad's Anthony Perkins.
Anthony Perkins, he comes out with this horror film, and a film we both really enjoyed, and he's come back very quickly now.
So I'll just say, actually, sorry, I'm going to repeat it because I didn't actually say it. So the thing is about Oscar Perkins, who's an actor who's in like Legally Blonde, and has been in many things, but has slowly been building himself as a filmmaker in the past. Yes, his father was Anthony Perkins, who, as most people know, was Norman Bates in Psycho, who was gay and sadly died of AIDS in the early 90s. Osgood Perkins' mother then tragically died in 9/11 on one of the planes. Yeah. And this whole backstory is just very interesting. And now he's come out and got this whole new chapter of his career. And he actually he acts in this film as well. He makes an appearance as one of the characters. But anyway, back to you, sorry.
No, not at all. And he's coming out with The Monkey, which is a film that strikes a really interesting tone between dark, horrific, violent, gory deaths and something funny and strange and peculiar. And so we have a really interesting opening scene where Adam Scott, just for this opening scene, runs into a pawn shop covered in blood with one of those monkeys that you've definitely seen in films before. They usually have a cymbal that clashes, whereas this is with a drum. And he's trying to pawn it off to this pawn shop. And he's basically the gist about the monkey is that kind of like a Death Note Final Destination crossover. You twist the back of this monkey, you dial it up, it bangs the drum, and someone very nearby, we don't know who, is going to die. And that is the situation that our character, Hal, finds himself in. We start with the beginning of the film. He's a young boy. They come across this monkey, which both of the twins take into their lives and slowly start to realize that the more they interact with this monkey, the more people start to die. We then catch up with Hal years later after they bury this monkey down a well in the most Stephen King style ever. They find the monkey has resurfaced. It is based off of a Stephen King short story. It's quite short, wasn't it?
It's a 98-minute movie.
98-minute
Theo
movie.
James.
Theo James, who's seen from The White Lotus and the In-Betweeners movie.
Yes.
Let's not forget.
And Divergent to Sergient to Allegiant to Liberdiant.
We gave up halfway through. Detergent, yeah. So George, you and I saw a nice little press screening. Before we start, I just want to say... they were giving out some severed bloody thumb cake pops. Cake pops I'm usually a little bit lukewarm on.
Never had one before in my life.
They can be very overly sweet with too much icing to cake ratio. I'm just going to say this right now, best cake pop I've ever had, and I think you agree.
It's the first cake pop I've ever had. It's the best severed finger I've ever had.
You started with the good ones.
I had it, and you know what? I was craving some sugar that day. I was feeling a bit low. I'd already picked up 2 Twixes on the way with James, and that's an anomaly for me. I don't normally double Twix it.
Just say, we were here before we went to go see that. You and me spent maybe 40 minutes to an hour, just every 5 minutes being like, we could go for a burger before, but where would we go? I don't know.
And I was like, no, James, I'll eat after and I'll digest it on the train home. It's fine, but let me get my Twixes. You know what? They don't have the Twix extra long. I'll get the. Anyway, and I get that. They give us the cake pops.
Fantastic. I took another one.
I think I had 3.
I had 2. You had 3? Where'd you get your third?
No, I had 2. So you and I had basically a hand's worth of fingers.
Really good. Separately, George the monkey. How did you get on with it?
So, the monkey, which, as you said, has got all these good ingredients. Really excited to see what Oscar Perkins is doing. It's got Stephen King, Theo James, we quite like. Yeah, it's a black comedy horror that I found titillating and amusing, and it's got a really wacky tone, moments of extreme funny gore that I think is quite amusing and carried me along for a long time until maybe 2/3 of the way in, the steam really started to run out of it. And I think even at 98 minutes, by the time we got to the end, I thought, I feel quite empty now. And in the third act, it sort of builds towards sort of character developments and characters are brought in that I just felt absolutely nothing towards. And there was one character in particular, I'm like, what is this person doing in this film? I don't understand. Why are they dressing up like that? And why are they doing these things? What is going on?
Oscar Perkins has a thing for strange men with weird hair in
his
his horror films.
And look, what works is that there are the punchlines of extreme gore, particularly in the first 45 minutes. When we say like it's based off a Stephen King short story, I'd say the first 45 minutes to an hour is where it works best. Yeah. The punchy violence, the cutback to when they're twins is just like that works really well. It's not scary, but it's kind of funny and atmospheric, and everyone in our audience was kind of laughing a lot. The guy next to you was having a great time.
Oh, the annoying laugh. It was the laugh that wants everyone to know that you're laughing. And that's why it's annoying. I've no problem with the volume of the laughter. You
think it's insincere?
It's insincere, and you're starting and elongating your laugh, and it's mistimed. It's like out of sync. Yeah. And that really fucks me off. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
Could you feel me
seething? You saw your head turn a few times. I sympathise.
What are you doing?
I will say that also it's quite refreshing because with Longlegs, which we both quite liked, the one thing I found about Longlegs that frustrated me is that was so humorless the entire movie. It was devoid of any joke or anything, which is not. I just find that sometimes a bit unnatural in films. You can have a very serious film but have a moment of humor because it's very human. This is like an overcorrection where he shows his funny side. I'm like, great to see that. Theo James, it's one of those things where he's good in this, but he's also completely miscast. I like Theo James. He does good stuff in this. I don't want to take that away from him. But like, I think by the time I got to the end of the film, I'm like, do you know who should have played this role? Jay Baruchel. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God, so much better.
He's meant to be this bookish, nerdy, glasses
wearing. Theo James is gorgeous.
Guy, and Theo James is like a hulking mass of a hunk.
Stunning. They put some glasses on him to nerd him up a bit, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Like,
no way.
I feel you
just that. And Oscar Perkins turns up for a little bit wearing some like funny glasses. So it's not scary, but it's quite fun. Yeah. It's quite playful. That it does ultimately run out of steam. I do wish. Do you wish it had just gone a bit wackier? Even though there's some wacky images. Even though there are some wacky things that happen towards the end, I wish I cared more about it. And there were a couple of moments where I just by the end I thought, okay, I guess.
I thought the wackiness of the first half was going to build to a crescendo of something really out there and strange that never really came.
No.
But my thoughts are very, very similar. You know what was interesting about this is that it's quite a rare relief for me and you to go and see a film, and I literally hadn't seen a trailer. Yeah. I knew nothing about it, which is for us who are constantly going to see films and covering them. I'm like, oh, what a relief! All I know is it's Osgood Perkins from Longlegs, a film I really enjoyed last year, and this is, I think, one of those funny situations where I actually think it would have benefited me to have seen a trailer, to have a little bit of runway to know what I was coming in for, because what I really wanted from it was something a little bit more sinister and nasty. First of all, I think what Osgood Perkins is clearly trying to say with Longlegs and The Monkey is that, yes, he wants to be a really competent horror director, but I think he actually wants to comment on the grief and the horror that he's experienced in his own life and the death and the sadness. There's this whole point about everybody dies in this film. And that's kind of messed up, and that's on the poster. And I think he's clearly dealt with a lot of grief in his life. And on one hand, you can choose to engage with the darkness and the sadness, but you also have to have a laugh and realize that this happens to everyone. That's a part of the film. It's like, I've had such horrible death in my life, but everybody has things that have died. And I think he wants to toe this really, I think, quite hard to define line of like, death is horrible, but there's also something really funny about it. A particular moment of comedic a high for me was the motel swimming pool scene. I just thought it was so brilliantly done, and those moments are really funny, and maybe the characters wouldn't react that way if they saw it, but because you've had 45 minutes of setup by that point for some of those moments, you do just sort of tilt your head back and laugh, so that's great. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it felt like a short story that had been made into a film, and the second third act was running on fumes, and I did feel it, and I think it's a shame that because I just praised it for being split across two tones, I wonder now, would it be a more confident, definitive horror film if it had lent into the disgusting and the horror? Because maybe that's what I was after. And I think from coming out of Longlegs, I expected something with a little bit more nasty payoff, and that never came. It's a nice little note at the end as a final scene where you go, all right, yeah, I see what you're doing here. But other than that, a little bit disappointed, maybe, dare I say, a bit bored in the second half, which is a shame for a 95-minute film. There's
this thing that, because Stephen King's a great writer, but like there's a thing with narrative where like if you have a really strong concept, it's sometimes very hard to build a strong concept out into a fully fleshed narrative. So if you have a great act one, it's sometimes hard to build that out. Stephen King actually has a story about, an anecdote rather, about how he came up with this idea for a story. It's got a great hook, but he had no idea where to go with it. So he never finished it, which is the story called The Ladies' Room, which is this idea that he had this story where it's at like Chicago airport and there's a flight leaving and there's the women's bathroom and all these men's wives go into the bathroom to use the bathroom, but they never come out.
Yeah.
And you have this sort of gathering of men just like, everyone keeps going into the women's room, but they never come out, which is an interesting concept. But he's like, I've no idea, where do I go from there?
Well, that's why horror shorts are so prolific, right?
Yeah.
You see these 5-minute, 10-minute, or 2-minute horror shorts, and the whole end of it is the monster wins and gets the person, and these often become the opening scenes of their feature-length films. It's when you try and solve the problem, you end up with like some of the Conjuring first films where you end up having to have a fight scene with your demon, or like it becomes an action film or a final boss, and that's never as interesting as the monster just winning. And I said this on a few episodes ago. I'm like, in horror, we need to stop having our main characters solve the problem. Is it not more satisfying is it not scarier for the darkness to win a little bit more? And I wish that happened in horror films more. Nobody makes it.
Yeah, I
kind of like in the first Paranormal Activity. If you've seen the ending, it kind of
a bit more nihilistic.
Yeah,
Blair Witch.
We don't need to all like, and we got over our parental horror. Yeah. It's gonna be okay now, isn't it, darling? Thank you for exercising the demon. I'm gonna be okay. It's like, no, fuck you. Let the demon win. I sort of comment on this film. I mean more about horror in general and taking a short form concept and going, okay, well, how do we do this in 100 minutes? Don't solve the problem.
So yeah, it's
maybe because we've sort of explain more about its tone and what it's trying to do. Guys might go and see it and you might get something different out of it and you get to appreciate it for what it is. Good deaths in there.
Yeah, some funny moments, and it's almost what Final Destination should have been, which is has a sense of humor.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas Final Destination would have always been like, whoa. I said this to James the other day. Like, the problem with Final Destination is that you'd have like someone be like, yeah, well, screw you guys, and then they'd get mown down by an ambulance going 70 miles an hour. And I'm like, what ambulance is going 70 miles an hour in an inner city area? Overthinking it, I know. Anyway, that's The Monkey. So it is what it was. And then at the end, actually, we should say, I think you had to go by this point, but they showed a small teaser.
Oh, yes.
For Osgood Perkins' next film called
something.
I think it's called Fellow.
Okay.
And I was about to call it Soon, but that's because after the trailer ended, it just said Soon. I'm like, Soon when? I think someone in the screening went Soon, which looks much more horror based.
I was just going to say I look forward to his next thing, which maybe
and it's got a lot of, I want to say it's a teaser they show, but from the images I can tell you that it looks a bit like maybe a woman ends up growing the devil inside her, like a pregnancy thing, but different women. The trailer was lots of women looking at the camera in like a point of view shot in like a amorous way, and then those same women, different women, you'd see looking at the camera with concern, and then there was blood on their faces, and there was screaming, and there was people turning up at front door, the frosted window of a front door someone would arrive at, and it looked like, is it set in the past? Is it set in the present? It's called Fellow, so I look forward to seeing that at some point.
Oh yeah, he's getting them out, isn't he?
Let's have some reviews of The Monkey.
Oh, yes. So Gemma has written in with her review of The Monkey. Gemma writes in, The Monkey review, and says, hi guys, hope you're well. I'm a relatively new listener and first-time emailer. Emailer. Gemma.
Hi,
thank
Gemma.
you. Welcome. I have just left a surprise screening of The Monkey and had to email in with my thoughts. I didn't know too much about the film going in, only that it was written and directed by Osgood Perkins, who also directed Longlegs, which I thoroughly enjoyed, so was excited to watch. The Monkey definitely landed more towards dark comedy than horror, and if I were to describe it, I'd say it was a cross between Final Destination and Scary Movie, with the plot being borderline ridiculous at points.
Yes.
I guess all I can say is that I've been left feeling confused. It's not that The Monkey is terrible, but less than a year after Longlegs, I couldn't help have a direct comparison in my mind. Maybe I would have enjoyed it more if I'd known what to expect, as I did know a lot of the humour and got some big laughs in the cinema. I just wanted to be scared, which I definitely wasn't.
No.
Would love to know your thoughts if you managed to see it. Thank you for all you do. This has quickly become my favourite podcast. Sending love from Scotland. Gemma, thank you. Well, there you go. That's what I said.
Do you
It's
know
like,
what? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, go on.
No. Well, I was going to say that honestly, it's more tonally similar to something like Beetlejuice You know, they're kind of wacky. Like, it's particularly this little midsection in like the country house. I was just kind of like,
yes, oh my God, it really
and
is.
the weird town where people are acting sort of strange. It kind of felt more askew. Some of the dialogue's all a bit askew.
The gore as well. It used to be quite funny with like body and parts and explosions. And
the when you said about the difficulty, we were talking about the difficulty of the concept as well. You know, you have got a antagonist in the monkey, which is indiscriminate, because the way it works, that's how the death thing works. And also, to quote In Bruges, it's an inanimate fucking object. So it's like you have these people who are like, give me the monkey, and this monkey's just... And yes, it's got a scary face.
Scary. It's got bloodshot eyes.
But it's like it's inanimate until it does the drumming thing.
They do their best, like bringing the camera close.
Yeah, no, I know. But like, there's a limit, I think, to what you could do with that outside of a short story.
I would say, if you're thinking of seeing it, detach your impression of Longlegs from this and instead just observe it as like quite a funny, subversive film. I really felt like it's Osgood Perkins trying to say something about death and grief and using horror to do that. And I admire it for that almost.
I don't think it's that deep, but I appreciate it. No, good for you.
I think so. I think the way in which like the brothers and grief tears families apart, trying to rationalize sad things happening to you.
Yeah, true. I took it more
I don't
like
know the guy.
he made Longlegs and he went, I also want to show people I can have fun.
Totally.
So then he made Longlegs. So then he made The Monkey. Another review from Ryan who says, hi guys, hope you've had a good week. Looking forward to my weekly visit to the kitchen as always. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Someone's saying, I'm just popping down to the kitchen. The Pulp Kitchen.
Boys.
I'm just out of seeing The Monkey, and to be honest with you, I don't have much to say about it, but I did enjoy it overall. I found the idea of the film to be one of promise, as it was inspired by Stephen King's short story. However, I don't think they quite managed to fulfill it. I don't think Oz Perkins takes it far enough, which I don't think I'd say with how much blood and death there is. As low-budget horror films go, however, I think it just about hit the mark. It was silly, funny, exactly what I was expecting, but I did think a lot of the dialogue was very secondary school drama, especially towards the end where... I think the best way to sum it up for me is a review I saw online that ended up with saying, why make a horror movie called The Monkey and not go full bananas? All the best, guys. Ryan, I see that. Yeah, why it could have gone nuts to the wall, done something crazy.
That's all we have for you guys on The Monkey. But if you guys had thoughts, please, as always, send them in to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. We would love to read them out on a future episode of the show. George, speaking of emails, should we go through some more?
Yes.